when you look at the Heisman, lately it's been the best player on the best team. That's usually been the top quarterback on the best team in the country. All right. In my opinion, the Heisman is going to the most outstanding player in college football, right? You don't have to win a national championship to be the most outstanding player in college football. What's up, ladies and gents? This is AJ Forbes and Bryce Harrington back on another episode of Boys Talking Ball. It's just the two of us today, and that's because we're talking college football. We're taking a break from the NFL talk, at least today. Recording the NFL talk tomorrow, but today we're talking college football. Uh, it was a hell of a weekend this past weekend. We had numerous upsets, none bigger than good old Vanderbilt upsetting number one Alabama 40-35. Uh, First thing I want to say is we said it at the beginning of the season. Diego Pavia is a dog. Commodores have their quarterback. They haven't had one since Jay Cutler. Boy's a dog.
I couldn't echo what you said enough. We have been on Diego for a while now. It feels like. And this Vanderbilt team, they gave Mizzou a hell of a scare not even 2 weeks ago. And they really should have beat Mizzou then too. This is a Vanderbilt team that is pretty much a service academy. They run the option, and it's like it's not a normal like SEC's like they're there to run the option.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's also Diego's best part of his game, and
Mm-hmm.
absolutely loved it. They played incredibly well against Alabama. I didn't think this would be that much of a letdown spot for Alabama, but um, Vanderbilt's been good all year.
Mm-hmm.
And like this. It is a surprise, but at the same point, it's like they finally have a quarterback. They got some good pieces there. They beat Virginia Tech earlier this year. Like they've strung along some good wins.
Yes. Yes. I mean, this is the first time. Let's not understate how big of a win this is. This is the first time they've beat an AP top five opponent ever. First time they've beat Alabama in 40 years. 3 weeks after good old Nick Saban says that the only place in the SEC that is not hard to play is Vanderbilt. Fast forward to this weekend, Vanderbilt beats Alabama in Tennessee by 5, and it was really a shootout. I mean, like if you were watching it, I'm sure most people were watching the game. If you were watching it, it was a shootout. Like it was genuinely this is the modern day SEC where it's points, points, points. The old days of the SEC are gone, where it's primarily defense. Points is the name of the game for the SEC now, and Vanderbilt looks like they caught up. I think a big part of that is Diego Pavia. Um, that I think, like you said, as you mentioned, they're basically a service academy. They're running the option out of the spread, which is what Diego does best. Um, they nearly doubled the time of possession that Alabama had. And when you're going up against the number one ranked team in the country, and Alabama, who has Jalen Milroe, who we're going to talk about later in this pod, who's a Heisman candidate. They have a freshman who guy can't even vote yet, and he's burning SEC defense. He's burning everybody in the country. When you have an explosive offense like that, the best defense that you have is keeping them off the field. And that's exactly what they did. They doubled their time of possession. Alabama had a couple explosive plays that kept them in the game. But Vanderbilt controlled the clock. And I think that was the best way. I think that was the best thing they could have done.
And going off that, like that is their game plan every week is to control the ball. They're going to run option football, and like you said, out of the spread. And like I think you saw it against Virginia Tech, shocked Virginia Tech at the beginning of the year, but they've consistently stayed with it over the past few weeks. And there's not too many option teams nowadays. And I
Mhm.
always that's kind of like it's a weird thing to prepare for, especially coming off a big win against Georgia. Um, I
And
think
that was the biggest thing. It was how do you come back from such an emotional win like that?
on the
And
road.
yeah, exactly. On the road, coming back from an emotional win. I th I think it is. I think it's easier to come back and play the following week after an emotional loss than it is an emotional win, because after that emotional loss, you feel like you can not coast, but you feel like, okay, what we're doing is working. We're gonna keep doing what we're doing. After a loss, you like something in your head. The best players, they're like, all right, dial it back in. We got to right this ship. So that was a big conversation coming into this game, and it was evident that
I think it's interesting
Vanderbilt came ready to play.
because Nick Saban reiterated almost that exact same thing that you just said on College Game Day this weekend when they asked him
Yep.
that, and
Yep.
it's interesting to hear that from a player's perspective as well.
Mhm.
Um, and it makes sense to me. You kind of tend to rest on your laurels a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, so that very interesting. So
Moving on. Most of these upsets came in the SEC, actually.
I was noticing.
So moving on to the Tennessee Arkansas game. I know we just said modern day SEC. It's points, points, points. This is a 19-14 upset here. Tennessee ended up losing to Arkansas in Arkansas. This was a massive win for the Razorbacks. I mean, the coming into this year, Sam Pittman was on the hot seat because you're in the SEC, you're coaching at Arkansas, you're expected to win. All right, Arkansas hasn't won a lot the past few years. That they're tired of it. They want to get back to it. This is a massive game for Sam Pittman and for Arkansas.
I couldn't agree more. As I talked about in the preseason, if anybody tagged along, I put out there in the world Arkansas over 4.5 wins, and you're probably at the time wondering what in God's name was I doing. Arkansas should have beat Oklahoma State.
Yep.
They've had a bunch of they should have beat Texas A&M last week too. They've had a bunch of close games, and they were bound to sneak to pull one of these off. They're a good team and should not be messed around with. Like that Taylon Green, excellent quarterback, has his issues every once in a while, but he's good. He's good. And Petrino they finally have an offense. I think
Yes.
last year Razorback fans would agree that they were kind of a little stagnant at points. Um, but I feel like Sam Pittman and Petrino, what they got going down there, is good. And for Tennessee to not score any points in the first half is shocking.
Insane to me.
They've
And during our preseason pod, we talked ad nauseum about Tennessee and how good that offense is. And I'm a big fan. I love. I'm a scheme guru. I love what they do on offense, and I've never seen an offense that offense and that system anywhere. I mean, you go back to Baylor with Art Briles, you go back to UCF when Heupel was at UCF, you go to even South Florida right now. They're running the same stuff. I have never seen a game like this where they didn't score any points in the first half, especially as the number 4 team in the country going up
mm,
against an unranked opponent. That was what was crazy to me.
shocking. I also think it's important to note this is the second game where the Tennessee offense has not looked wonderful. I know they beat
Mm-hmm.
down Oklahoma. That Oklahoma game, that wasn't necessarily a pretty game. A win's a
No.
win. And the Oklahoma defense is all right.
Yeah, and I was gonna say it's like you give them a pass, you give the offense a pass because you're going up against Oklahoma, it's a ranked matchup, yada yada, right?
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure everyone expected Tennessee to not run away with this Arkansas game because Arkansas is good despite what their record says. I think everyone expected them to score in the first half, first
Mhm.
possession, first quarter at least.
Like from a betting perspective, I was reading an article this week. Josh Heupel is one of the best first half covers
Absolutely.
out
It's
of all
because
the
it's because the offense he runs is insane.
it's insane. And um it's just one of those weeks where I was like, I'm just gonna lay off of it because Arkansas, they're good. Like,
Mhm.
and Arkansas plays well in the first half. Arkansas has issues with the second half. Like they played well in the first half against Oklahoma State, fell apart. Played well in the first half against Texas A&M, fell apart. They just needed to complete a full game, and here they are. They finally did it. Good for them.
Mhm. Yep. Good for Arkansas. Moving on, another SEC upset. Texas A&M absolutely destroyed Missouri. Missouri came into this game in the top 10, ranked ninth. Texas A&M just snuck in. They were 25th in the country coming into this game. They beat Missouri 41 to 10. 41 to 10. This is not we didn't see this. We didn't see this coming. This is the first loss that Mizzou had. Like you said, Arkansas kind of put them on the ropes. Not Arkansas.
Andy,
Vanderbilt was putting them on the ropes earlier this season. But this is the first loss of the season. And they had incredibly high expectations coming into this game. They were expected to win their side of the SEC at least. 41-10 is not what we expected out of the Tigers.
I loved Mizzou coming in this week. I bet him as an underdog. I was
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, I'm getting Mizzou as an underdog. A quick question for you. Do we know who Texas A&M is as a team?
No,
Lose to Notre Dame at home, just beat the brakes off of Mizzou. They've barely strung out a game against Arkansas.
I don't know. I mean, it's like I'm a big fan of Mike Elko. Um, I think he's gonna end up doing a really good job at Texas A&M. I didn't think he was gonna. I didn't think he was gonna do this. I didn't think he was gonna beat a top 10 team in the country. Yes, it was at home, but he beat a top 10 team in the country. I don't think anyone expected that, especially with how Missouri had been playing this season and the expectations that they had coming into the season.
Especially with the
Uh,
veteran quarterback, Brady Cook,
yeah,
and that
yes, yeah,
Luther. Like, those are guys that have been there for a while. Like this was going to be Mizzou's year to kind of like figure it out, and it's not
yeah.
looked good so far in SEC play.
Hmm.
No, we gave Vandy their flowers, but like no, they were still heavily favored to win that game. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like if Mizzou has any aspirations for an SEC championship, like they need to be able to go into College Station and win, and it
Hmm.
was bad from the start. So.
Hmm. You got a couple stats on here on the note sheet.
Yeah, got a couple betting stats here. This is just stuff that I completely missed this weekend. Could have helped, can help at least people coming out. So teams coming off a neutral site matchup are 62.2% win percentage in their next game, including going 89-23 straight up when that game is played at home. So Texas A&M played on a neutral site against Arkansas, come back home. Another
Yeah.
one, we got top 10 teams listed as underdogs against teams outside the top 10 have struggled lately, going 5 of 14 straight up, 8 and 11 against
Wow.
since 2021. That's an
Wow.
interesting stat to me.
Wow.
I, I would love to go back. I would love to go back and see some of those games and see who it is.
Hmm.
But
Since 2021, huh? So that's a hell of a sample size.
all this found on action.com. They're great. Yeah, I think that like stuff like that, like I love following the trends and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
obviously it came true for both of these.
Hmm.
And we see that Mizzou unfortunately was.
The victim of it this week.
Yep, yep.
Uh,
So
so that was the last big SEC upset that we had. We got one more coming out of the Big Ten. But before we get to that, I want to talk about what all these upsets do for the SEC standings implications. Among the teams who have played more than one conference game right now, like I know Texas was 1-0 in the SEC right now. We're not gonna really take that into account. But among teams who have played more than one conference game, A&M is the only SEC team with an undefeated conference record. Uh, didn't expect that, didn't expect that. Um, all those who are going to be contenders in the SEC that we talked about in the preseason, like Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, they all have at least one conference loss right now. Um, it's wide open. Like again, it's conference play just started not too long ago. Started about 2 weeks ago for most teams, right? But this is wide open. Like it doesn't seem like there's one SEC team right now who is completely running away with anything. Vanderbilt just beat Alabama after Alabama just beat Georgia. Um, Oklahoma lost to Tennessee. Tennessee just goes and loses to Arkansas. I mean,
it's just
we
going
got
to be a giant circle here.
yes, yes, and yes, it's early, but it is midseason. We just started conference play, but it is midseason. We have a good idea of what all these teams are going to look like. Um, it's toss up. I don't know who's gonna come out on either side.
I love it for one. The best thing that the SEC could have done for at least for a fan perspective is to remove the divisions.
Hmm.
Because now, like last week, we got a Georgia Alabama game.
Yep.
Um, And that's been the best thing. We're getting some of these tougher matchups. And going back to like the 12-team playoff, people are going to have to understand that we're going to get a couple SEC teams that are going to have 2 or 3 losses.
Yes.
It's going to
Yes.
be to Alabama, a team's lost to Alabama, Georgia, or Texas,
Hmm.
Alabama, like any
Yep.
combination of those. Unfortunately for Ole Miss, they drop one to Kentucky right away, and then they still haven't really they've been gathering their stuff up since then and still not looking.
Mm. Now,
Um,
I thought Ole Miss was kind of my sleeper pick coming out of the SEC. I know that's weird to say that Ole Miss is a sleeper pick, but I mean when you have a stacked conference like you do in the SEC, that's pretty. That's just how it works. Ole
yep.
Miss they got at LSU coming up this weekend. Can we also? I don't know how deep we're gonna get into it for this pod because we had a lot to talk about. This upcoming weekend games.
Incredible.
It's incredible. I
Incredible.
love it. But anyway, they're at LSU this weekend. Oklahoma comes to them. Then they got Arkansas 3 weeks from now. That'll be interesting. Then they have Georgia, Florida is whatever. Um, don't really know what they're gonna. Who knows? I don't even know. Are they? Is Billy Napier gonna be there? I don't know. They got Mississippi State. Yeah, Mississippi State to end the year and the conference play. So I mean.
I think they
That's
have,
a hell of a schedule.
and they still have one of the easier ones remaining out of like
Yeah,
Tennessee, Alabama,
which is
Georgia.
crazy.
I think Alabama still has they still have Tennessee. I think they have maybe Texas on there.
Mm,
They have the Iron Bowl. Uh,
hmm
and even like Texas, going back to Texas, I think the spot for everyone that should look out for, they play Texas A&M at the end of the year, last game of the year.
Yep.
I think Texas A&M, I said that at the beginning of the year. Circle that game. I think that's the game that Texas A&M will win, and it's only making me more confident each week when Texas A&M keeps sneaking off these games. That you
Yes.
see a Texas team that's kind of resting on their laurels. They understand that they're probably going to be in the college football playoff. Expect
hmm
them, maybe they have one loss already, and Texas A&M goes in there and sneaks.
I'm really curious to see what this Red River shootout is going to look like coming up this
It's
weekend.
it it's
That's
it's always
and we're going to talk about this later. Again, I mean, we got a stacked pod today. All right, so the rivalry games, nothing matters. No matter,
no,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you were up until that point throughout the rest of the season. Rivalry games, everything is off the table. Uh, so I mean, if you look at Oklahoma, who has been kind of shuffling their quarterback situation, they have a really good freshman that just surpassed Jackson Arnold. I mean, he just took the job straight up
stud.
took the job, which is awesome to see. Uh, Nothing against Jackson Arnold. I just like guys who step up and win the job have the merit to win the job. So that game this weekend, Texas Oklahoma, that's gonna be another one. So the SEC is wide open. It's anyone's game. All right. So I'm excited to see how that one
Me
goes
as
out.
well.
All right, last big upset that we're going to talk about comes out of the Big Ten. Weird to say that a USC team is in the Big Ten now. Still not used to that. But Minnesota, the row the boats, PJ Flex, beat number 11 USC 24-17. Welcome to the Big Ten, baby. All right. Uh, it was a great game. The cojones of PJ Fleck at the end of the game when he was like, "Yeah, we're just gonna run. It's fourth and short. We're just gonna run QB sneak um, to win the game." That was the quarterback's third rushing touchdown of the day, by the way. Max Brosmer, great. I mean, it's reminiscent of the good old Vince Lombardi. Do you ever hear that story?
Yeah.
Uh, where Vince Lombardi told what's his name? Bart Starr. It was like the conference championship against the Cowboys.
Mhm.
You know, just go run QB sneak. Let's get out of here. That's basically what PJ Fleck did this weekend. He after the game he was quoted as saying, "How often do you have an inch to go beat USC?" That's awesome. I love that. So good on you. Good on you for trusting your quarterback, trusting your own line.
Love the
Go,
Golden
go.
Goals.
Yep. Yep.
They honestly, their three losses this year, Minnesota last week, which was terrible. Big Ten came out and had to say that they blew that call on the onside kick against Michigan.
Yep.
North Carolina, their kicker shanked it. And I'm trying to blank on who they lost their third game to. They're a very competitive team. They got a good defense, they got a good running game. It's true Big Ten football. And it was one of those games where USC was going to have to step up and play. They couldn't play the throw the ball around like they want to, like Lincoln Riley
Yep.
wants to.
Yep.
And they got hit in the face and
Yep.
much expected.
Yep.
Just
So
a
I
quick
just
stat.
want.
I think
Oh,
that's
yep.
like
Go for it.
pretty damning on USC, even like Lincoln Riley, because he's been there for 3 years now, right? USC hasn't won a game in Eastern or Central time zone since 2012. They're now 0-10 and 1-9 against the spread. I mean, like I looked this year, like they have one more game where they go to Maryland. Like, is that a pick Maryland spot? Like, are we really gonna have to pick Terrapins right there? Like,
Oh my God. They have a win a game and oh my goodness. That's bad.
yeah.
That's terrible.
Um,
Ugh.
I
God bless the Pac-12. Really. Especially if you're a USC fan, apparently.
like in just questioning, like, is Lincoln Riley gonna get this figured out? Like, I think he had these questions at Oklahoma too, where he can snip off kind of the smaller opponents, but when he has to step up in weight class, I know Minnesota's not necessarily, a huge step up in the weight class, but like
Mhm.
he has Penn State again this weekend. If he loses this weekend, there are gonna be some questions about Lincoln Riley.
You know, you know what? I don't think there's really going to be questions about Lincoln Riley. Um, because he's done it. He's done it before. I mean, he's been to the college football playoff. Multiple times. I do believe he had that.
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, he's never won. He's never won a college football playoff game, but he's got there. So and USC basically mortgaged the house on Lincoln Riley coming in and being the savior of Trojan football. Um, I don't think I don't think his job security is necessarily in doubt.
I'm just wondering if they
But
have
you got to
enough.
start asking. You got to figure out what's gonna happen here.
They've
I
dropped
mean,
two already this year. I mean, they got Penn State coming up. That could
yeah,
be a third. I mean, I don't know. You know,
yeah. I
Oof.
mean, let's take a peek see here at USC schedule. So they got Penn State. Penn State comes to them. Maryland, they go to Maryland. That's what we just talked about. Rutgers comes to them. They're at
Rutgers is a
Washington.
good team, by the way.
Rutgers
Rutgers,
is a good team.
very good team.
This is another weird one. Nebraska goes to USC for a conference game. I still hate this.
Yeah.
Uh, Nebraska is a feisty group.
Yep.
UCLA is a feisty group, and then they finish the regular season off with Notre Dame. So I mean,
They
I
finished off
see.
with two rivalry games, and they have a bunch of tough, like scrappy Big Ten opponents that are not going to
I
be.
mean, I see two, 3 losses,
Yeah,
3 possible losses on the rest of on their schedule for the rest of the season.
they're sitting 6-6, 7-5. You think that there's looking at Lincoln Riley like, hey man, you know you went 8-3 last year. Like, what are we doing?
Uh-huh. With a Heisman winning quarterback. I don't know. I think I and we talked about it 7 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago when we released that preseason pod. I mean, they're in a new conference, and it's gonna and the style of play coming from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten, very different. Not
Mhm.
only is it very different styles of play between the teams, it's different environments, and not knowing what you're really getting into. I mean, you can watch all the film you want, you can talk to all the players and all the coaches that you want to try to get a feel of what Big Ten football is like. You don't really know until you start playing conference games, and right now they're struggling with it.
I just
So
want on the record, I'm not calling for his job, just only questioning what the Trojan fan base is think here if they go
yes,
if they start going 7-5 and 6-6, because I don't think that that's necessarily a patient fan base. That is a historic program that
yes.
they want to win. And
No,
that's
I mean, and that's let's see. When did he become the head coach? He became the head coach back in 2022.
had at least two bowl games. So this is his third year because he's 0-2 in bowl games because he lost to Tulane, or no, he's 1-1. He lost to Tulane, and then he beat, would they beat? I want to say it's North Carolina last year, but I just
I
don't.
can't remember. Uh, so he went 11-3 his first year after taking over. The year before he became head coach, USC was 4-8 as Clay Helton and Dante Williams, the interim, finished up the year. Came in blazing hot at 11-3, then goes to 8-5, and then now is sitting at 3-2. Different conference, obviously. Things need to happen there, like we just talked about. But yeah, 3-2 football is not exactly what USC fans are expecting. So
I'm not, and like last year, he had the Heisman. So,
yeah. So all right,
um,
moving on. Talking about two other historic football programs. I think these two teams have had the hearts of Americans, not only this year, but for the last 100 years. God bless our troops. Army Navy looking to be the matchup of the season. All right. So me and my dad, it's always a tradition of ours because Army Navy sits in right between our birthdays in back in December. It is always a tradition of ours to watch the Army Navy game together because God dang it, we love running the football. And this is what these two teams do the best. All right. I looked at every year we always talk about, hey, let's go. Hey, we gotta find a way to go watch these two teams play in person in December. We gotta go do it. Looked at the tickets couple like last week or 2 weeks ago. They're like $800 for Army Navy this year. Okay. Army and Navy are both 5-0. All right. First time since we won a world war, Bryce. All right. Navy is 5-0 for the first time in 7 years. Army is 5-0 for the first time since 1996. They're both 5-0 coming into this week for the first time since 1945. I like I talked to you earlier before the pod get going. I think I've watched Army more than any other team besides Montana this year.
oh,
I love these two squads.
I don't know why I've watched Army quite a bit this year. I think it's just been like something I've just like it's been on. I remember
Well,
watching the game.
and they always play those early slots. They always
Yep.
play the early games.
So they're just like, okay, like I'll throw it on. And personally, just like my prediction already, this is way too early. I usually cheer for Navy. I don't really have a rooting interest, but I think Army is the better team out of the two this year. I think
Hmm.
Army's a little bit more physical. The only thing that concerns me is Navy can kind of throw the ball a little bit.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which like
And I will say they choose to throw the ball a little bit more.
yes, and it's not like the quadruple option that Air Force runs, but like they it's there. It's there
Yeah.
more than it's been.
Yes. Yep.
It's going to be interesting being in the American to see because they have Tulane in front of them and they both have Notre Dame in front of them.
Hmm.
I'm a Notre Dame fan. I don't know what Notre Dame's going to look like against either of them. Notre Dame's either going to look like a college football playoff team, or you'll get the Northern Illinois Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Or they're gonna play in the New Mexico Bowl at the end of the year.
Yep, yep, yep. But Tulane is also a good team as well.
They just put
Which
up
is like
70, right?
yeah, they just dropped
On
70.
UAB.
Gave gave K-State a scare, gave Oklahoma a scare. Like they're a good team. Like
Hmm.
not to disrespect Tulane. I want Army Navy though for the American. That would be awesome.
Hell yeah. I love it. So
8 games
talking
left.
so
Games
yeah,
left for Army, Air Force, Notre Dame, UTSA. UTSA is not wonderful. Air Force is dog water, but I mean that is a rivalry game. Got to
yep,
put
yep,
respect on them.
yep.
Like I said with Notre Dame, like I can't tell you which one you're gonna get, and I would probably bet that one of these two will snap like take out Notre Dame. Like there's no
Hmm.
way that Notre Dame's going 2-0 against two triple option teams that are this good. I
Hmm.
wouldn't think. I hope as a Notre Dame fan that they do, but I just don't see it. And I think the Notre Dame Navy game, one of the two is a neutral site game in the Bronx. They're playing at Yankee Stadium. Check on that
Okay.
though.
Okay.
So I guess we'll see it. Navy, Notre Dame, South Florida, Tulane. South Florida's cooling a little bit. They're not getting as hot as what they were. And
Uh-uh.
like Tulane just put up 70 on UAB. I I'm tired of the Trent Dilfer experience at UAB. It's time to get rid of the man. He deserves way better than Trent Dilfer. I don't know what he's doing down there. It's been a disaster. Like, just cut ties. Like, let's.
Yeah. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I don't know. I believe it or not, I haven't watched a whole lot of Birmingham, Alabama football this season, and I haven't been the last thing that I saw about Trent Dilfer before this weekend, or about UAB in general, were just like preseason interviews with Trent Dilfer and
He's
whatever.
never in the
But
news for a good thing for UAB.
no, no, he's not, and he's
It's
not. Like
Chelsea.
he got caught. He got caught pretty like berating players on the sideline or whatever. Which I, as a player, you're like whatever, but it's not good optics for UAB, especially when you're trying to like bring that program back to
Like,
the semi relevance that it had.
yep,
And then getting 70 put up on you by Tulane, that's never good, obviously.
yep, yep.
So, but yeah,
Let's
going back to go real quick, going back to the Army, the rest of Army schedule. Like you said, Notre Dame is going to be a great game. I'm really looking forward to see what they look like against Notre Dame, because this it might be the first time in I don't know how long that Army and Notre Dame are both ranked in a matchup. That'll be fun.
I mean,
That'll
I'm
be fun.
sure Notre Dame's played them when, or Navy at least when they've been
Navy
ranked.
has, yes. I think
So
that
yeah, Army.
that UTSA game, yeah. Now UTSA is sitting at 2-3 right now. I really like Jeff Traylor, their head coach. UTSA has been they have been climbing in relevance as a Group of Five team for a while now. They've won the games that they were supposed to win, and they lost the games that they were supposed to lose. They're sitting right in the middle right here. They're worse off than they had been in the past under Jeff Traylor, but I'm never going to count that man out. Dude's a really good football coach. So I think if I was Army, I wouldn't take that game lightly. And obviously Notre Dame is Notre Dame. Air Force just got beat by like 30 against Navy. So I mean, but
That Army Notre Dame game.
it's a rivalry game. So you can't really, but
That Army Notre Dame game is at Yankee Stadium, so kind of an
is it?
interesting. So
Ooh.
that'll
So I
be
mean, there is a very real situation where Army Navy playing the American Conference Championship. They play then the college football ranking show comes out the next day, I think. They go and play the Army Navy game, right? And then there's a real possibility that they play a third time in the playoff, depending
yep.
on how everything else goes. There's a chance that they play three times in a row. And as a guy who has grown up watching this, like this is one of my favorite rivalries of in college football, Army Navy. Um, I would love that so much. I would love that so
I
much.
hope it happens for you and
Yeah.
for all of us. I think that'd be
Yep.
it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I
And
think
then you said it earlier, if you like Army better than Navy so far this season. I agree. Like I said, I watched more Army games this year than any other team besides Montana. Um, I think I think they got a better quarterback, even though Horvath for Navy has been really good this year. They throw the ball a little bit more. Doesn't necessarily mean they throw it better. It just means they throw it more, which is when you're a team that I'm pretty sure Army leads the nation in rushing right now, and they're undefeated. So why would you do anything else? No, but I grew up cheering for Army ever since that Trent Steelman crying on the sideline way back like a decade ago or something. Ever since then, I've been an Army fan. So I think we both like Army.
yeah, yeah.
All right, moving on. We got some BarnBurner Bets look backs. So what that is, again, this is the midseason point in college football. Before the season started, we really Bryce for BarnBurner Bets, he had a list of different things that he would put money on. So we have them now. We are all about transparency here about BarnBurner Sports, especially when money is involved. So Bryce, I'll let you take it away.
Love it. I like to liken this segment to where Colin was right or where Colin was wrong, honestly. Well, midway season. So I'll take you back to August. I had SMU or over 8.5. Now, I think the first 2 weeks you could have heard some fright in my voice at first when it came to this. SMU looking very good. Um, right now. They had that one stumble to BYU where they lost by 3. That's looking like a pretty good loss.
Yes.
Um, Looking like a pretty good loss, and we only need 9 wins. So we we can deal with 2 more losses. Looking down the schedule, their schedule very favorable. Stanford, Duke, Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, California. There's some tough game, like some feisty teams in there, but
Yep.
you don't have any like there's no Clemson, there's no Miami. Um, Love it. I'm still riding with it right now.
You need 4 wins. You
Yes.
need that's all you need. You don't
And
need to run the table. You just need 4 wins.
and I think Duke, Stanford, Cal, Virginia, I think are the ones I can count on. So, um, popping down to the next one. I loved Rutgers at the beginning of the year. Loved them, and they've only proved like they've done great so far this year. They looked ugly this last weekend at Nebraska. Really should have been a game that they won. Um, that I not great, but once again, they are what are they 4-1 right now? I'm
Yep.
trying to think.
I just looked at the standings. They're four
Four
and
and
one,
one.
and they're tied for third with a bunch of other teams in the Big Ten. They're 1-1 in conference play.
We need 3 more wins. They play Wisconsin, UCLA, USC, Minnesota, Maryland, Illinois, Michigan State.
That might be a tougher one. That might be a tough one to get a couple compared to SMU, but that's all. I mean,
UCLA, terrible. They got to travel to Rutgers. I think Maryland, that's a rivalry game. Might snag that one. Michigan State at the end of the year. Michigan State's weird. They look
they're
terrible
weird.
against
Yeah.
Oregon. That might be one. Illinois, I don't know what to think of Illinois still after they got beat down by Penn State. Who knows? Like you said, might be tougher. Just less games we need to win overall right there.
Three. You need 3 wins. That's all you need. That's all you need.
Yep. Yep. This next one we got Bama football here over 9.5. So this was a heartbreaker for me this last weekend because Dandy was one of the games that it was like this is one that we just this is like one of those at the beginning of the year where I was like, yep, W.
Yep.
And
Rightfully so, I think.
yeah, and we need 10 wins. They got South Carolina this week, Tennessee next weekend, Missouri, LSU, Mercer, Oklahoma, and Auburn. Whew, that is whew.
Yeah.
That that's a sweat out one.
But that being said, you're still Alabama. All right.
Yep,
You
yep,
were the number one team in the country 48 hours ago. Okay.
yep,
You were that for a reason. There is
yep,
no reason why you can't have 10 wins this year. No reason.
exactly. I'm completely with you. And this last one, I'm sorry to everyone. I had App State over 8.5. I thought App State was going to be just great. And they have had such bad quarterback issues with Aguilar. When you look at they got absolutely boat raced by South Bama. They lost to Marshall. They got a game canceled against Liberty. Lord knows they probably would have lost that. I thought they were going to put up more of a fight against Clemson than what they did. Terrible, like bad, bad.
Mhm.
Some of the
It's really the only one that you kind of missed on so far.
yeah, and like so far, like looking like it's not bad so far. There were like this next one, I'm still high on Utah to make the playoffs plus 220.
Really, still high on that.
If we can get Cam Rising to play a football game, it would. I feel comfortable. But we have Zach Wilson's little brother out there. I'm just gonna call him Zach Wilson's little brother because so far that's what he deserves right
That's
now.
so disrespectful.
But even with Zach Wilson's little brother, like they are still a competitive team. Like they're still 4-1. They
Yeah, they're
almost
4-1, 1-1 in conference play.
yeah. Um, if they can get Cam Rising back, like they got this.
Yeah,
Some of the other
that's a
things
bit.
that
That's still a big if right now.
it
Who
is,
knows?
it is, but hey, we'll keep battling here. That's all that it's about. Hey, honestly, if I'm a Big 12 team, and we'll talk about this later with like the who we're choosing,
Yeah.
midway through the season. Just get to the Big 12 championship. That's where you get your auto bid. So just find a way to get in the Big 12 championship. Like, it's all you need, man.
Yep.
Uh, some of these long shots I had from the group of five to make college football playoff. UNLV, and I brought up JMU. Damn JMU. They were looking so good, and then they lost to Louisiana Monroe this last weekend. I don't know if anybody saw that. They put up 70 on North Carolina, world beaters. And I'm like, this team, like, I'm looking really smart right now. And
It's
then,
the same thing. It's the same thing coming off of a really emotional win, put up
yep,
70 points. Same thing that we just talked about with Alabama. Same
yep.
thing.
UNLV. I was high on UNLV with Saluka. We don't need to go into it now. This is an off season topic. They get the kid from he leaves, get the kid from Campbell. They're just as good. Should have beat Syracuse. That was a lot of
That was, yeah.
great
Yep.
game to watch. Not a lot of good things there. Um, and I had it either be the Mountain West, Liberty, or the Sun Belt champ. I still believe that coming out of the group of five. I don't think Sun Belt as much anymore because Texas State's lost to Arizona State. So I really think
Um,
Liberty's going to be tough. If in all honesty, it's going to be either be Boise State or UNLV in my head, and or what I didn't account for, Army, Navy, Tulane. Um, maybe not Tulane because they got a few losses there, but
yep.
uh, looking back,
I'm so much hoping. I can't stress enough that I am hoping for this Army win here.
speeding through this, you and I brought up Memphis has Florida State, and that could be a trap game for Florida State. And here we are. Who knew Florida State was going to be literal dog poop? Cut that. Um, and then Boise fought well against Oregon, so that loss I don't think is a bad loss. Like that
No,
they
it's
were
not a bad
fighting,
loss. Absolutely
not a
not.
bad loss at all. All I said in that beginning pod is that they just needed to be competitive and within. Oregon needed everything in a special teams touchdown
Yep.
to beat Boise State.
Yep.
And well, we're talking about it next. Ashton Genty, give him the Heisman right now. I'm gonna be so mad. Like I love Travis Hunter. I get it. He's really good, but like this man is
We'll get
putting up
there.
real video game numbers.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Last comment. Beginning of the year, you and I both brought up Iowa State and UCF as our sleepers. Rip UCF. Like
Golly, dude.
they
I had
have
no
everything.
idea. I
They
had
have
no idea.
everything and just cannot put things together. Iowa State, though, we were both brought them up, and I brought up they had a tough schedule, but they had a lot of starters returning. They're one of the leaders in the starters returning in the country with their coach and Campbell,
Mhm.
who's a really good coach. And here they
Mhm.
are. They are doing really, really well. So I just, pat ourselves on the back there so far. They're looking good. This might be a end of the year preview or end of the year look back where we're going like, my God, why would we ever say that? But so far, Iowa State, like they're in the running there. So
Yeah, I'll go ahead and eat my words on the UCF pick
mm,
because you would think, with a guy like KJ Jefferson and Gus Malzahn, they would do something. Haven't done a whole lot. So
yeah.
that one hurt. That one hurt a little bit. All right, since you brought it up, we're gonna move on to our Heisman Power Rankings. If you go to
Oh,
if you go to the BarnBurner Sports Twitter page, I put out our power rankings after week 6. Thought this would be a great time. It's midseason. I thought this would be a great time to talk about the modified power rankings. So these are a little different. So I'll let you kick it off since you already talked about them. I think Ashton Genty is easily the Heisman favorite.
I couldn't agree more. I know he's a group of five guys, so he is even that much more to fight through. You have on here, he has more rushing yards than Barry Sanders. He needs to break that record, though, I think, in order to get the eyes of the voters.
I think if he's only he's played 5 games, right? He's only played 4. He's played 16 quarters. There have been 2 games this year where he hasn't played the second half.
Which, yeah, completely. And that's something to even think
And I get
about.
it. I get it. He's a stud. He is your team, right? Can we let's get close. Let's get close to that record, if not break it. If he breaks that record, I mean that's one of the most unbreakable college football records of all time, along
I
with the
would think he's got
touchdowns.
to be close because I don't see anybody in the Mountain West stopping him other than UNLV and even UNLV's defense. Eh.
Mhm.
Um, like, come on now. I agree with your power rankings for the most part. I'm not a big Colorado guy. They're sometimes they get to peak level annoying for me, but Travis Hunter, what you got to respect what he's doing.
Yes.
Of
I,
course.
I talked about it. I talked about it last week. His comparison obviously has been Charles Woodson. Like just in terms of what he's doing, not like player,
Yeah.
like not play style or anything. It's he's a DB that also that plays on offense. Not he's not just that. He is a true two-way starter. He is playing damn near every snap of a
Playing
football
140
game.
snaps a game. Like,
That's you don't see that. You don't see that in college football ever. He's doing something that we I don't think we've ever seen before.
the
He
only thing I have questions with him is like, can Colorado keep this going? Because if Colorado starts to, like they did about
yes,
this last year, it's
yep,
like, okay, like,
yeah.
I, yeah,
You can't yes, you can't really give a Heisman consideration to a guy whose team has lost, three, four, five, 6 games. Colorado's looked way better these
Mhm.
past couple of weeks. Um, but Travis Hunter, he leads the team in catches, leads the team in receiving yards, leads the team in touchdowns, leads the team in interceptions. Um, did I say interceptions twice? He
You're,
leads the team in catches, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions. That's what he leads the team
yeah,
in.
yeah,
Nobody else in the country does that. Um,
yeah. And
we're at the point now. I mean, you'll look at the leading the team in interceptions. He has two, right? But we're at the point now where offenses are deliberately not throwing in his direction.
yeah, and that's how you know that you're damn good.
And I think personally, I think he projects better as a wide receiver going forward. Like when you're talking about NFL comps or whatever, I think he projects better as a wide receiver. But the cool thing about it is he is using the same skills as a receiver as he is as a corner, right?
That's all.
He has incredible ball skills on both ends, right? I mean, you just go with. I mean, he started the season off against NDSU, and that
Wrap
crazy
around
game
catch.
wraparound catch, crazy. He has great instincts on the defensive side of the ball. That's one thing. I mean, you go look at some of the like if you, for example, there was one play he was playing like a cover two, right? As a corner. In cover two, you're sitting out there on the number one receiver and you're you're following that number one receiver vertical until something brings you underneath, right? He has the ability to trail underneath that receiver and then he sees another receiver, whether it's a back or a slot, comes into that flat area, and he has incredible instincts that he can go and make the jump on the ball, and his ball skills and his body control is good enough to where he can make these insane catches. So I love it. He's a great player. There's no doubt there. He
He's
he
awesome.
definitely he definitely deserves to be in this Heisman contention just because of what he's doing. Nobody else has ever done it.
Um,
Um,
Bump down to the next one. Cam
yep.
Ward, love it. Cam Ward's played well. Uh, they barely snuck one out against Cal. If anybody stayed up, the real MVP of that game was Reese Davis pulling a 22-hour shift there.
No kidding.
Real MVP of that game was Reese Davis. But Cam Ward, completely deserving. He, all of his time at Wazoo finally gets the limelight. Couldn't agree more with you there. I love it. I just hope that he like I don't know if he's had his it's terrible cliche to say his Heisman moment.
Heisman moment. Yeah.
Like I can point to like Jaden Milrow, I see he's two below, had his Heisman moment at Georgia,
Yep.
then loses next week to Vandy. So like I would have told you if we did this last week, I'd have been like, man, like I would have put Genty one, that's my own vote. Two would have been Milrow, just because I kind of guess how they're gonna vote, and this has been a
Yeah.
top quarterback on the best team kind of
Yeah.
award.
Yeah.
But then he drops it. So
Yeah. I can't like when you watch Cam Ward play, like not only does he lead the country in passing yards and passing touchdowns, he plays quarterback in a very unconventional way. He's very nonchalant, which is cool because like when you think quarterback, like you think the best quarterbacks in whatever level that you're playing, they're very serious. They're very gung ho. Whatever term you want to use for that. He's not really that. Like you watch him scramble, he just kind of it looks like he's just jogging. And he's
yeah,
he's just and you look at the touchdown throw he had to beat Cal this last weekend. He had the ball in the belly of the back for like it felt like 60 seconds. It felt
Yep.
like, and then he just pulls it out and just sidearm whips it to his guy for the touchdown to beat Cal. I mean,
Love
like
it.
he's very nonchalant when he's playing quarterback. I think that comes with confidence in his ability and himself. And when you have a whip of an arm like he has, I would too. Uh, it's confidence in himself and it's confidence in his teammates around him to make the plays while the ball's in the air. I think it's cool. This is the one that I want to talk about though. All right.
That's what I was just gonna let you because
This
that's why I covered Jaden Milroe. We're good. I don't think we need to cover number 5. So you go to town, my guy.
all right. I'm gonna get I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. All right. When you look at the Heisman, lately it's been the best player on the best team. That's usually been the top quarterback on the best team in the country. All right. In my opinion, the Heisman is going to the most outstanding player in college football, right? You don't have to win a national championship to be the most outstanding player in college football. What you need to do is look at who has the biggest impact on the team while they're winning. All right. And when you're undefeated, you can't ignore it. So my fourth slot on this power ranking is Bryson Daly, quarterback for Army. We've talked about Army a lot already. So I'm just gonna say this. All right. It's hard to start the season undefeated as an academy. All right. There's a lot of things that you got to deal with that a lot of other college students don't have to deal with. All right. I think everyone is sick and tired of hearing about that. Everyone understands that, right? You would think in an option style offense, the ball would be distributed relatively evenly across the board. You know, it's dive, keep, pitch. That's what the option is, right? And it is. It's pretty even across the board if you take Bryson Daly away, because he. This is the crazy thing. He's third in the country in rushing touchdowns. All right, as a quarterback, he is 2 yards away from being in the top 10 in the country in rushing yards. All right. Again, this is an option offense. He ain't throwing the ball a whole lot. Went 5 for 5 with 2 touchdowns last week. That matters. Uh, but there are so many times during an Army game where it looks like the Army offensive coordinator will just look down at his call sheet and be like, "Yeah, I'm just going to give the ball to Bryson here." And it's there the amount of design quarterback runs. The dude is is a quarterback in a linebacker's body. It is so fun. It is so fun watching him play football. If you guys want a treat, go watch Bryson Daly play football this weekend. I love it so much. He has twice as many carries as anybody else on the team. Like I said, he's almost top 10 in the country in rushing. He's third in rushing touchdowns. I love the guy. There is nobody more important to in the group of five, really, I think, than Bryson Daly for Army. You can make the argument for Horvath. He has 2 more passing touchdowns, I think, but there's not another.
They can
There's
do the most
not.
American thing this weekend and kill off. Get rid of Trent Dilfer. That's who they play this weekend.
But I think when you're looking at group of 5 players, it's Ashton Genty, obviously, Heisman front runner, and then it's Bryson Daly. That's my opinion. And then we talked about it already. Jalen Milroe, he comes in at fifth. He was at third in my previous power rankings. That was coming off the Georgia win, but then you go and you lose to Vanderbilt. That's gonna hurt. Yeah, you'll look at the stat sheet and you'll see the interception that he threw was the turning point in the game, which I think a lot of people would say is accurate. But the interception wasn't on him. It was a tip ball. I mean, got to the receiver, tipped in the air, interception, gone. So
Not not my idea for this, but love Dan Patrick. Listen to him a lot. He has a stat that he's like, I wish this was a stat of receiver caused interceptions.
yes,
But
yes,
there are a lot of times where a quarterback gets credited for an interception. Receiver might have ran the wrong route. It bounced off the receiver's hand. Like just weird stuff like that. I couldn't agree more. Quick note about Bryson Daly. Very Keenan Reynolds-esque hype around him with like because Keenan Reynolds was like that guy. I loved Keenan Reynolds too because he was for Navy. I that's
yep,
like what had me bought into Navy for the last like since
yep.
him. That's kind of cheered for
Yep.
Navy.
Yep.
He was a stud, and he did get a few Heisman votes.
He did.
So I kind of hope that, having a group of five team be able to get into the playoff kind of opens it up more for people to vote for those group of
Mhm.
five teams. So
And then the last note I have on Jalen Milroe here. Uh, I said the mark of being one of the best players in the country is having your OC or your DC design plays specifically for you to succeed. You know, you hear about the do your 111th. Some people's 111th matter a little bit more than others on certain plays, right? That's just how it is. The mark of being a great player is having your play caller design plays for you to succeed, and that's exactly what Milroe does with Alabama. I mean, I forget who the coach was. Someone called him the best running back at Alabama is Jalen Milroe. And you could say that as a slight sometime to some people, but it's accurate. I mean, first of all, the guy has 11 passing touchdowns. He leads the country in yards per pass attempt. So there's no ulterior whatever for that, right? He is their best running back. I mean, how many times this year have you seen just like a QB sweep pin and pull, and he scores? He scores damn near every time that they run that play, and that's what I'm talking about. And the same thing can be applied to Bryson Daly.
yep,
When you have your play caller just look at the play sheet and be like, shit, I mean, why am I taking the ball out of 13's hands? Just let him take over the game, and
yep,
that's what Bryson. Going back to Bryson Daly, Bryson Daly really is my pick over Horvath at Navy because Bryson Daly takes over games. He wins
yep.
games. He wills the Black Knights to victory on Saturdays, right? That's why I have him there. But the same thing applies to Jalen Milroe. Now he sits at fifth. He's probably going to end up higher at the end of the season just because he's a quarterback at Alabama. He's really good, right? So that's that's how I have it. That's how I have my power rankings. Is there is there anyone else that you would want to add?
I really can't think of anybody else that I would find deserving to throw up on there.
I had I in the power rankings a week ago, that five spot was held by Dylan Gabriel. And I thought he's not, especially after last week, and they beat Michigan State, obviously. Threw two touchdowns, threw two picks, hasn't done anything really exceptionally well, right? I don't think he's really lived up to I think what Cam Ward is doing at Miami is what we expected Dylan Gabriel to do at Oregon.
Couldn't agree.
I think that's how we expected Dylan Gabriel to do this year, and he just hasn't done it. And that could be a myriad of things. We're not in the Oregon meetings anymore, right? Not anymore, ever. Uh, but he was at the five spot. I think who's the receiver for Ohio State? Jeremiah Smith, is that his name?
Yep.
That okay. I gotta look something up real quick. So for anyone who is unaware, Jeremiah Smith is a freshman,
Hmm.
freshman at Ohio State. Let's
Stud.
take a stud, absolute stud. It's insane. It's literally insane how Ohio State keeps doing this. So the last the last five games, he's had receiving yard. His first game ever, he had 92. He had six catches, 92 yards, and two touchdowns. That was his first college game ever, I think. Um, yeah, first college game ever. Second game ever, five catches, 119 yards, one touchdown. He's caught a touchdown in every single game and has had at least 70 yards every game this year. I mean, he's been great. I've seen his name pop up on a couple um like midseason Heisman ballots or whatever you want to call it. He's had a great year. So
Not a bad choice. I think Ryan Williams, I would love to see a 17-year-old thrown up there. Obviously, I
yep.
don't know what the numbers are at, but
Yep.
he definitely had his moments there.
Mm. I mean, he had his Heisman moment. He had it already. If he were ever to get any kind of votes, he had it
Yep,
already. 177 yards against Georgia. His first college football game, he had two catches, 139 yards, and two touchdowns. That's a Randy Moss stat line, is what that is.
yep,
And then yeah, same thing. You could argue that Ryan Williams is having a better start than Jeremiah Smith to his career. They're both freshmen. Can't vote yet. So that's crazy. All right. Anybody else?
No?
All right.
Want to
That,
transition to the new fun game? We'll make this a game format. How about that? We'll go
that's
buy
it.
or sell. Okay. AJ, we'll go buy or sell. We're gonna do current conference odds here on who's gonna win the conference. Okay. So I'm
Okay.
just gonna give you two options, maybe three. You can go outside of that if you want. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So this first one, we're gonna cover all the conferences. This first one, I know where you're gonna go at, where you're gonna go. It's gonna be pretty predictable, I think. I'm gonna mark it down so when we do an end of the year, we can
Yep.
go back.
For sure.
Transparency.
For sure.
Hashtag transparency, we care. So buying or selling Tulane at plus 112 to win the American. Army is plus 300 after that. So,
I'm taking the Army odds.
yep.
That's what I'm taking. That's what I'm
Those are
thinking.
not bad for Army. I'm not gonna lie.
No, that's what I'm saying. They're plus 300 to win the American. I'm
Yeah,
taking
I was
those every
looking at that
day.
just now and I was like, oh, those aren't actually that bad.
I'm taking those
I
every day.
agree. I'd have to look at the rest of Tulane's schedule. I think that they, like we've already been over Army's schedule. I'd be kind of curious what they both like, what Tulane's looks like,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I'm sure it's pretty similar rigor. Going next. So you're selling Tulane, buying Army. I love it.
Yep.
I'm agreeing with you. Next, the ACC, buying or selling Miami plus 122.
Let's do this. Give me the options. Give me the options and the odds, and then I'll tell you who I'm
Okay.
buying. I'm selling.
Miami plus 122, Clemson plus 177, and then the third, my Fighting Blue Pony Express, SMU at plus 600.
To me, to me personally, I'm buying Clemson, selling SMU, selling Miami. Now, SMU at plus 600, that's pretty good, especially with their conference record right now. I think after I think Clemson's extraordinary loss to Georgia at the beginning of the season, they have done nothing but improve.
Yeah.
Um, I think their defense is way better. Cade Klubnik is all of a sudden on fire, right? He might be someone that might get some Heisman conversation later on in the season. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna buy Clemson, sell Miami, sell SMU.
Love it. I am going to buy Miami, sell Clemson, unfortunately sell SMU. Looking at those right now, I think I'd be curious to see what it'd be for SMU to make the ACC championship game because there is a market for that. And wonder if you
Yes.
got them for plus 400 after going through their schedule. They don't have that tough of a schedule. Like,
I was gonna
on,
in that case to make the conference championship game, I would buy SMU. To make it, yes.
yeah. Um, I I gotta eat crow a little bit about what I said about Dabo. He has turned this program around. Um, that being said, though, I think this is the year the Mario Cristobal turns it around. If the man can just make the right decisions at the end of the game. I don't trust him as in critical situations. I've seen you saw the Georgia Tech game last year where he decides to run the ball and they lose that game. He did it at
Yep.
Oregon as well. I worry
Yep.
about stuff like that with him. And I think Dabo situationally maybe a little bit better than Mario Cristobal.
I would agree
But
with
I
that.
think I know Cam. This year Cam Ward's better than Cade Klubnik, I would say. So
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
so I think I'm going with Miami there. Miami to take the conference. Next we're popping the fun Big 12 here. These are some crazy odds. I was shocked looking at these. Iowa State plus 340, K-State plus 412, Utah plus 450. Let's hear what you're doing.
I If Cam Rising ever plays football again, I would be very tempted to buy Utah at those odds. No, though I'm assuming those odds are specifically with their quarterback situation right now, which is with not Cam Rising. So I'm going to sell Utah. I, mm, I would say I like Iowa State. I'm buying Iowa State, selling K State. I really like K State. I think that might end up being the matchup in the Big 12 championship game. Iowa State, K State. Iowa State is slightly they scare me still just because they don't have a history of doing what they're doing right now. So that scares me a little bit. I'm tempted to say K-State, but I love Matt Campbell, so I'll go Iowa State. Buying Iowa State, selling K-State.
I agree with you there. If you told me tomorrow Cam Rising's healthy, I'm running, getting plus 450 as quick as I can. That being said, I like Matt Campbell's another coach that has had his issues. Like he hasn't
True.
been,
That's true. That's true.
and
But
like another one where like Iowa State just like is weird and they just like they have weird seasons where they fall apart at the end. And so I don't know if I'm kind of like waiting for that, or maybe this is the year that they do it. But I'll for now I'll buy Iowa State. Um, I think it'll be Iowa State Utah because I'll bank that Cam Rising's going to eventually be healthy.
mm,
Um, but we'll jump
you
to the
know
big.
what? You know what? I take it back. I'm buying K-State. I don't
Love
care.
it.
I'm buying K-State. I take it back.
Love it.
Get some parity in barn burner.
Love it. Big Ten now. Ohio State minus 120, Oregon plus 245, Penn State plus 450. Let's hear it.
I'm buying Ohio State. I'm buying Ohio. They've I think they've looked the best out of any Big Ten team so far this season. Oregon is Oregon at that plus 245 is still in terms of odds, I think Oregon might be your best pick. But in terms of just pure football, I would like I think I'm buying Ohio State.
Go off of football for what?
Going off of football, I'm gonna do Ohio State because they look the best so far this year. Chip Kelly has been a great addition to that staff.
How the hell college football let that happen? It like come on
Well,
now.
he didn't want to be a CEO anymore.
Yep.
He wanted to be a play caller. He knows what he loves, and that's what he wanted to do.
And good for
Um,
him.
yep.
Yeah. I uh I have a future on Oregon around this number. So I'm gonna have to stick with Oregon. I said that in the preseason, so I'm not gonna waver off that anytime soon. Um, I'm the main reason why I chose it in the beginning is I think that Dan Lanning, he's that guy. I think he's a good defensive coach.
Mm,
They haven't looked
agreed.
great yet, and I also think that I don't know if Ohio State's really played anybody yet until this weekend.
Hmm.
Great news. This weekend
They
we'll
may play
watch it.
really well.
This weekend, Ohio State, Oregon. So tune in.
Hmm.
I don't trust Penn State. They have looked better with that with Leipold. It's Leipold that came over from Kansas.
Correct.
One of the
Correct.
coordinators came over from Kansas. Their offense looks wonderful. I've never seen a Penn State offense look this good. Um, so now quickly jumping into the CUSA. Just two really. Liberty plus 125 and the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers plus 245. Um, you can make this quick if you'd like. You can ramble on if you want. I don't know what your love for the CUSA.
No, I'm gonna make it quick. Liberty. That's my pick.
Yeah, me as well. I wish I could say that Western Kentucky Hilltoppers were going to fight. They got cool helmets this next week. They always have they've got some good stuff coming out there. Um,
I have never seen a school make the most out of a mascot like they do. I
they
love it.
they love that mascot, and I'm here
Mm.
for it.
Mm.
Um, This next one, Mac, gotta love it. Some action, baby. Toledo plus 230, Bowling Green plus 305. I can go and find the third one for you, but we'll just stick with these two.
I think I'm looking at the max standings right now. All right, we got one, two, three, four, five, six, seven undefeated teams in the MAC right now. You're either defeated or undefeated in the MAC right now. That's just how it looks like. In terms of odds, it's interesting that Eastern Michigan isn't on here. Um, in terms of odds, I think I would be comfortable with Toledo taking the MAC. That's my
Okay,
pick.
I like it. I like it. I'm just trying to find that. That third one
But
for Ohio at plus 487, and then Western Michigan's plus 774.
wow.
So
Ooh, actually, what's Ohio at? What's Ohio at again?
Ohio Bobcats, I should clarify, the Ohio
Yeah.
Bobcat,
Yep.
487.
487. Let me look at this record real quick.
I'll talk real quick. I love Bowling Green. I was high on them beginning of the year. I had them winning the MAC beginning of the year. They gave a hell of a fight to Texas A&M. Speaking of another one of the weird games Texas A&M had, I was just looking at it to see the score again. Um, 26-20, weird. Then they also played Penn State, lost to Penn State by 7. Then they lose to Old Dominion, which is weird. But then they went and beat Akron last week. They're a good team, and yeah, I'm rolling with Bowling
Yeah.
Green.
Yeah, I thought about Ohio for a second. Uh I'm gonna take Toledo. I'm gonna take Toledo.
The Rockets, love it, love it. Now hopping to the Mountain West. Some might say the gatekeeper of the auto bid for the group of five. Boise
That's
at minus 132, UNLV plus 190. What are we rolling with here?
I I think purely football again. All right. I think as long as Ashton Genty has a pulse, Boise State will win the Mountain West. All right. I think UNLV at plus 190 is a great pick. If you're trying to win some more money, I think UNLV is a great pick. They're a quarterback right now who started the year. There was some actual controversy about whether or not their quarterback right now should have been the starter while Matthew Sluka
Yeah.
was there.
Yep.
Um, hasn't missed a beat yet. So I really like UNLV. But as long as Ashton Genty is there in Boise, then I'm taking them.
And for you FCS sickos out there, Campbell, and they might have been 4-8, but he was good when he was
He
there.
was
So
he's got a cool
Mountain
name too.
West, um, once again, preseason I got to roll with what I had at plus 700. I got to roll with the running Rebs. I
Mhm.
can only hope that they can slow down my beloved Ashton Genty. Do I think that's going to happen? No. I think Boise State can also, like that Madsen kid, their quarterback, they can score points. You saw it this weekend against Utah State. Like they're not they're a damn good team. So I'm rolling with UNLV. And next to quite possibly the most wide open of them all, I believe, more than the Big 12 when you're looking out down the schedules down the second half of the year, the SEC. Texas plus 142, Bama plus 400, Georgia plus 475.
I am gonna I'm gonna buy Bama, sell Texas and Georgia. Why I say that is I think they're gonna have I think Alabama's gonna have a fire lit under their ass for the rest of the season after that loss to Vanderbilt. Texas still looks like so far they look like the best team in the country. They played
Yep.
with a backup quarterback for the last few weeks, and while that backup quarterback is Arch Manning, and they still have not missed a beat. They look great, but I think Alabama is good enough to win the SEC. Obviously, I mean, I feel like that goes without saying. They still got Jalen Milroe. And I think that loss to Vanderbilt is going to light a fire under their ass for the rest of the year. So I'm going to pick Bama.
Gonna second that with you. One of my biggest reasons is Georgia goes to Texas, so obviously one of these two schools will have two losses.
Yep.
Um, and I think anybody with two losses, maybe two losses get you into the SEC championship, but I don't think so. And I, like you said, I think Bama, um, despite their incredibly tough schedule down the stretch that we've gone over, they have fire lit under their ass after this week. And
Yep.
finally, the Fun Belt, which has become nothing shy of disaster this year with plenty of losses, but fun teams throughout, per usual. Texas State plus 300, JMU plus 350, and I will throw in a third team there for you if it's reasonable. So yeah, Louisiana Raging Cajuns. That's third there at plus
Okay.
five.
Okay. I coming into this season, one of my favorite group of five teams was Texas State. Ironically enough, they run this. We've been talking about that veer and shoot style of offense that Tennessee runs, South Florida runs. Um, Texas State runs a very similar style of offense to them.
Yeah.
They're one of my favorite teams coming into the season. They're sitting at 3-2. right now. Jordan McLeod, their transfer quarterback, has done phenomenal. Actually, I'm a really big fan of him. They have a win against Lamar. They beat UTSA by a wide margin. They beat them 49-10. Then they compounded that with back-to-back losses. They lost to Arizona State in a really close game with some
Fun one.
officiating if he's in there. They lost 31-28. Then they lost to Sam Houston on a neutral site, 40-39. So their losses have come by a combined 4 points. So they're that close away from being undefeated, which I think they expected to be. And then they just went and beat Troy 38-17 this past weekend. Looking at the rest of their schedule, they play Louisiana, they play Arkansas State, and they play South Alabama to end the season. Those are probably going to be their three toughest games to end the year. I'm going to take Texas State.
I like it. I like
I'm going
it.
to take Texas State
I
to win the
like
Sun
it,
Belt.
but I'm not here to disagree. I'm not here to agree with you today. Give me the Dukes. Um, JMU. I once again another team. I had them in the long shot. We talked about it earlier. They were plus 700 to win Sun Belt. Have them. Um, they looked great. If this pod was last week, I would have been on cloud nine with this team. Just dropped 70 on North Carolina, and then they lose to Louisiana Monroe, which I mean, they're not a terrible team this year. They've been somewhat competitive. But the good news is the back half of their schedule, all of a sudden it looks a little bit better. With probably their toughest game being, I would think it would be Marshall now. App State's a shell of themselves, like we talked about.
Yep.
Southern Miss is abysmal. Coastal is going to be not easy, like it's not going to be easy this week.
Yeah.
But maybe even Old Dominion might be slightly difficult. But other than that, like they could go. I mean, I really think that this is going to be your Sun Belt championship, Texas
Yes.
State, JMU
Fun, fun fact: Texas State's quarterback Jordan McLeod
from
from
JMU.
JMU, which is always interesting to see an in conference transfer like that. Usually
Especially at
not.
like a high profile position like quarterback.
Yes, especially because I'm looking at it right now. Jordan McLeod he was a high profile transfer in the portal this last off season. He threw for 35 touchdowns, uh he had 3,600 yards, 10 interceptions. He had a great year. Uh I would believe he had expected to go fight for a Power Four job somewhere, and maybe he had that offer. Um, then he chose to go to Texas State with GJ Kenny, who I'm assuming that offense that they run. I keep talking about this offense. I love this offense. The system that they run, not necessarily. Well, I also love Texas State's offense in particular, but the system that they run, I would assume that was attractive for him coming into the season. But just wanted to lay that fun fact down. So
Love it. No, I think about it too because um would be nice if he was still there at JMU, but um their quarterback that they have now, he beat out their Power Four transfer that they brought in. Talk about another team that's like been all over the map. They beat Charlotte 30-7. Then they barely beat Gardner Webb. Then they beat down North Carolina, and then they lose to Louisiana Monroe. Weird, but I'll take it. Yeah, that's all I have.
yeah,
Um,
sweet. So, oh man, that was a lot. That was a lot. We took down every conference. Look at us. Good for us. All right. Well, unless you got anything else to add.
no, no, have
Oh,
fun. Bet
all right.
safely.
No, yeah, yeah. So that big bright lights disclaimer right here. Uh, but no, I like this is gonna be a great college football weekend this upcoming week. There's gonna be a lot of ranked games, a lot of really good games that are gonna change the trajectory of a lot of teams' years for the rest of the season. So I think I'm excited for it. I know you're excited for it. It's going to be a great year. We're gonna do this again, at least at the end of the season to wrap up everything that's been going on. But until then, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.